Hi everyone! Today we're continuing our mini-series on the IELTS Speaking Exam. We'd like to take the opportunity to remind our followers how the IELTS Speaking Exam is structured. The first part consists of general conversational topics about yourself and a few hobbies or interests you might have. You'll know when the first part is over because the examiner will hand you a task card with a prompt and questions to answer for the second part. Once you've had a minute to think about your reply, the examiner will ask you to start talking. Without repeating yourself, try to talk for as long as you can. The examiner will stop you once you hit 2 minutes, and then the examiner will ask you 1 or 2 questions on the same topic. Part 2 takes 3 to 4 minutes in total. The third section begins when the examiner asks you follow-up questions about the topic in Part 2. In this video, we're mostly going to address aspects related to the interaction with the test examiner. Tip 1. You can ask the examiner to repeat questions in the first section. While it may be tempting to ask the examiner to explain a word or rephrase a question, the examiner cannot do this in the first portion of the speaking test. Examiners must ask questions exactly as they are written. However, you can ask examiners to repeat questions. This is not the listening section, so you won't be docked points for asking for this. If you cannot understand the examiner, do ask them to repeat themselves. It's also possible to occasionally use this as a delaying tactic if you need a bit more time to think of a reply. Don't overuse this strategy, but it can be helpful if you can't think of anything to say. Example questions for the IELTS Speaking Task 1 include: what do you study? What do you do for work? Where is your home? Follow-up questions might include: what is your daily routine? What do you use your computer for? How do you spend time with your family? Although you might be tempted to ask the examiner to repeat the question to buy a bit more time, avoid doing this too often. In the third portion of the speaking test, you might need to use this strategy. In general, only ask them to repeat the question if you don't understand it. Tip 2. You cannot ask the examiner any questions in the second section. Unlike the first section of the IELTS speaking exam, the examiner may not repeat the question in the second section. But have no fear, your questions are presented to you on a prompt card. The examiner cannot change the topic you were assigned, so don't ask for that either. Students have 1 minute to prepare for the topic on the prompt card. You'll have a piece of paper to write down some key points. Use this opportunity wisely to think through answering all of the questions on the prompt. Then, you'll need to speak about the topic for 1 to 2 minutes. If you don't understand the question or find yourself at a loss, talk about the things on the prompt you do understand. If you've done your research and looked at sample questions before taking the test, you'll be prepared to talk about any topic the examiner might assign. Here is an example of what might come up on the prompt card. Describe a film you have recently watched. What kind of film it is? What it is about? What sort of people would enjoy it? And explain why you liked it. You'll need to address each of the above questions in your response to get a high band score. To help develop your answer, use the 6W tactic, answering the questions who, what, where, why, when, and how. Jot down bullet points during the minute you've given to prepare. If you'd like to learn more about how to prepare for these questions, click on the link at the top right-hand corner to watch this video. Link is also in the video description below. Tip 3. You can ask the examiner questions in the third section. Lastly, In the third section, if you need time to think, you can ask the examiner to repeat or rephrase the question. In the first section of the IELTS speaking exam, the examiner can repeat the question but cannot rephrase it. However, in the third section, you can ask the examiner to both repeat and rephrase the question. In fact, if you're confused about a specific word, you can ask the examiner to explain what that word means. The reason is because the third section of the exam is testing your conversational skills. In a normal conversation, even native English speakers will ask people to repeat themselves or explain specific words if they're not familiar with them. So don't be afraid to ask for clarification in the third portion of the IELTS exam. It's allowed. Here are some example questions. They are related to the film topic we just discussed a moment ago, so the examiner might ask follow-up questions like these. Do you think going to the cinema is as popular today as it was 20 years ago? In the future, could streaming services replace movie theaters altogether? Are films more relevant and interesting when they are based on real life or true stories? Should we censor content for a certain audience, or should audiences be free to choose whatever content they wish to watch? So if you don't understand a word or a question, feel free to ask the examiner to repeat or rephrase. Tip 4. Have phrases you can use while thinking. If the examiner cues you to begin talking, but you're not ready to start, there are a few phrases you can use to buy yourself extra time to collect your thoughts. Remember, all of the questions in the second section want you to tell a story about an experience related to the topic. With that in mind, here are a few example phrases you can always include to keep the story rolling. I remember the first time. Next, I was surprised to find. I found myself at. I had never imagined that I would feel. Afterwards, I learned that. There are many other phrases like this that can be slotted into any conversation. Create a few of your own phrases and practice using them. That way, your conversation will flow naturally. If you're struggling to continue the conversation, you may find yourself using too many filler words such as like, or so. Don't hesitate to pause for a few seconds to gather your thoughts and deliver your response. It's okay. Taking pauses is a normal part of any conversation. That's a wrap! With these 4 tips, you'll have a solid interaction with the examiner during the IELTS speaking test. During the first part of the IELTS, you can ask to have the question repeated but not rephrased. On the second part, you're given the prompt card, so you can't ask for either repetition or clarification. On the third portion, you can ask for the question to be repeated or rephrased. Finally, use phrases to keep the story rolling or to buy yourself time. Our sponsor for this video, Helppo, is the ideal place to find a native English speaking teacher to help you improve the pronunciation and clarity of your spoken English. It is an online tutoring company with multiple advanced IELTS tutors who graduated from prestigious universities. If you need help preparing for the ACT, SAT, HKDSE, IELTS, or any other standardized tests, consider making an appointment at www.hihelppo.com. Alternatively, you can reach out to Helppo's student success team by sending us a WhatsApp message. Links to everything are below in the description. If you found this video useful, please give us a like and share it with your friends. If you'd like to be notified when the next video in this series is posted, subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell. You can always follow us on social media. Are there any other phrases used to keep a story going? Let us know in the comments below. As always, have a great day and best of luck on the IELTS.